New dental services will be available for the underprivileged. Rebuilding of Wafu Estate will be completed sooner. Leader of South Korea's ruling party seems to turn against his president. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The government said a community dental support program will be launched next year to provide dental services for underprivileged groups. The measure came as authorities published a review report on oral health care services. Mimo Singhai reports.
In the 2022 policy address, the chief executive mentioned a need to review dental services provided or subsidized by the government. A working group on oral health and dental care was later established. On Friday, the group released a report of their findings. They said the oral health and dental care system should adopt an approach of targeting prevention, early identification, and timely intervention. Under the plan, a community dental support program will be introduced in the second quarter of 2025. The scheme is designed for underprivileged groups, such as the homeless and elderly people with financial difficulties. Services include fillings and extractions. Residents who are currently receiving free dental care services from the hospital authority can be fully subsidized under the program. Those who are partially subsidized must pay $50 for each tooth. Authorities said a quota of at least 40,000 for the program will be available per year. The working group says such a measure is important for taking care of the needy.
Despite having dental services available in the private sector, they are not accessible by the people I mentioned. We consider what the best options are in providing essential dental care services for these underprivileged groups in a speedy manner.
The government said an online registration system for dental appointments for the general public will be implemented on December 30th. Each patient can register once. The queuing order will be decided by lots. Mims 9, TVB News.
The new Secretary for Transport and Logistics, Mabel Chan, attended a meeting at the Legislative Council on her second day in the job. She said authorities will conduct railway projects in a creative way. In the meeting of a subcommittee on railways, some legislators voiced concern about the potential visual impact and noise pollution that may result from planned construction on the South Island Line extension. Chan says a light railway system, mainly running on elevated viaducts, could lower the construction cost by 40%. She added that using rubber wheels could reduce noise and take up less space. The government said the last remaining batch of residents of Wafu Public Housing Estate, which is set to be redeveloped, will move to newly built flats in the same estate between 2034 and 2035. This is 6 years earlier than scheduled. Samantha Lee tells us more.
From 2026, Wafu Estate will be redeveloped in 3 phases. The Housing Authority said they can bring the 3rd phase forward. That is because the MTR South Island Line extension will use a smart and green mass transit system instead of the traditional heavy rail that was initially proposed. This change will allow sites originally reserved for digging tunnels to be freed up for building flats sooner. The 3rd clearance phase, involving Waitroi House and Waking House, originally expected tenants to vacate their homes by 2040. The new plan announced today is for these units to be empty by 2034. This means the whole redevelopment of Wafu Estate will be completed by 2035, 6 years earlier than previously scheduled. Sources say the number of flats and building designs remain unchanged. The location of the future Wafu MTR station is yet to be confirmed. As for the first redevelopment phase for Choi Hong Estate, the Housing Authority said some 1,970 tenants of Pek Hoi House, Campek House, and Tan Phong House are expected to leave their flats before April 2029. Those affected can choose to move to the new Mei Tong Estate in the same district. Tenants affected by the clearance will be offered a removal allowance, ranging from $10,030 to $31,910, depending on the size of their household. tenants aged 60 or above can apply to live in blocks scheduled for redevelopment in the second or third phase of the project. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
A Hong Kong court rejected a judicial review application from a man who is serving jail time for a national security offense. Ma Chun-man was sentenced to 5 years behind bars for inciting secession in 2021. Ma would normally be eligible for early release in March because of his good behavior. However, as a result of the implementation of the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance, the Correctional Services Department said Ma had to serve another year. Ma's judicial review was dismissed. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump nominated former Senator David Perdue to be ambassador to China. Perdue is seen as a China hawk. On Thursday, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said on his social media that Perdue would be nominated as the new ambassador to China. Trump said Perdue can help build a relationship between U.S. and China with his working experience in China and Asia regions. The 74-year-old was Senator of Georgia from 2015 to 2021. The leader of South Korea's ruling party said that President Yoon Suk-yeol needs to be removed from power for trying to impose martial law this week. This as the main opposition Democratic Party held meetings to discuss impeachment and has scheduled a vote for Saturday evening. They need support from members of the president's People Power Party to get the two-thirds majority required to pass the impeachment motion. Tracy Furness has more.
Anti-government protesters gathered outside South Korea's parliament Thursday demanding President Yoon Suk-yeol step down. They are opposed to the president's declaration of martial law earlier this week and are urging the ruling party to vote in favor of the president's impeachment when it is put to the vote on Saturday. This attendee said he thought the emergency martial law was the same as a country pointing guns at its own citizens. Protesters also poured into the streets of Seoul Thursday night, something they've been doing since martial law was imposed on Tuesday, calling for Yoon to resign and to be investigated. Martial law lasted only about 6 hours. Meanwhile, the governing party's chief showed support Friday for suspending the constitutional powers of President Yoon for imposing martial law. People Power Party leader Han Dong-hoon said he had received intelligence that Yoon had ordered the country's counterintelligence commander to arrest and detain some key politicians based on accusations of anti-state activities during martial law. He's not even admitting that it was wrong to declare martial law, Han said. He also said that if Yoon was to continue running the government, he may attempt to impose martial law again, which could put the Republic of Korea and its citizens in great danger. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
French President Emmanuel Macron said he would name a new prime minister within days following the resignation of ousted Prime Minister Michel Barnier. Macron came out fighting a day after a historic no-confidence vote at the National Assembly that left France without a functioning government. He laid blame at the door of his opponents on the far right for bringing down Barnier's government. He said he'd name a new prime minister within days, but gave no hint who that might be. A statement from the Élysée presidential palace said Barnier and other ministers will be in charge of affairs until the appointment of a new government. The no-confidence motion passed by 331 votes in the National Assembly, forcing Barnier to step down after just 3 months in office, the shortest tenure of any prime minister in modern French history. Still ahead, rebels in Syria gaining more ground. NASA announces delays in its plan to fly to the moon. And a look at a case of horse racing tourism in Hong Kong. Welcome back. Syrian rebels say they have taken the city of Hama in the center of the country, its fourth largest city. Video shows them celebrating and being welcomed to the town. The armed group already control Aleppo to the north. Thousands are said to be fleeing Homs, with opposition forces expected to push further south. David Garrett reports.
Syrian insurgents welcomed by residents on the roadside as they take the central city of Hama. They say they will cleanse a wound caused by decades of dictator rule. Once again, they appear to have faced little resistance from the army of leader Bashar al-Assad. His defence minister says the withdrawal of government forces from Hama is a tactical measure and has vowed to regain control. The beleaguered president said there will be a counter-attack. At a United Nations Security Council briefing, the US accused Assad of previously using chemical weapons against his own people. US Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood warned of human rights abuses and civilians at risk. Syria's representative denies the US allegations, condemned chemical weapon use and says his government are working with the UN disarmament team. But the head for the Organisation of the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons expressed serious concerns, saying her assessment team has 19 unresolved issues with Syria, while the UN Secretary-General says both sides in this civil war have a responsibility to the Syrian people.
Tens of thousands of civilians are at risk in a region already on fire. These must change. After 14 years of conflict, it is high time for all parties to engage seriously with Geir Pedersen, my special envoy for Syria, to finally chart a new, inclusive and comprehensive approach.
The insurgents took Aleppo last week, and volunteers from the Civil Defence Force, or White Helmets, are cleaning up. A spokesperson for the group, speaking from the United Kingdom, says there's a shortage of fuel and medicines.
People are in need everywhere, in all areas, and the infrastructure is so weak. It was damaged by the earthquake last year and by more than a decade of bombardment and shelling.
These people are living in a school-turned-shelter on the outskirts of Homs. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says thousands more are on the move, fleeing for coastal areas in the west. Rebel fighters pledged to take Homs after successes in Aleppo and Hama. David Garrett, TVB News.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump selected Jared Isaacman to lead NASA. Trump picked the billionaire private astronaut and business associate of Elon Musk to oversee an agency closely linked to the SpaceX founder's business. This as NASA announced that there are more delays in sending astronauts back to the moon more than 50 years after Apollo. NASA said the next mission in the Artemis program is now targeted for April 2026.
Space is demanding, and we and our industry and international partners need this time to make sure that the Orion capsule is ready to safely deliver our astronauts to deep space and back to Earth.
In recent years, Macau has been seeking to diversify its economy to attract more talent to the city. The chief of Macau's Policy Research and Regional Development Bureau vowed to further improve such policies. He said Macau has distinctive advantages which could help entice people to come and work there. Danny Zhou has more.
For the first time, the Macau SAR government proposed in its 2023 policy address the 1+4 strategy for appropriate economic diversification. The policy aims to make the recreation and tourism industry stronger and more competitive. Macau also wants to continue to propel the health, modern finance, high-tech, convention and exhibition, as well as culture and sports industries. Macau's talent introduction law came into effect last year. By October, a total of 464 eligible applicants were included in the recommended list of talent, 80% of whom are from the mainland. Zhang Zuowen, the head of the Policy Research and Regional Development Bureau, noted the Talent Commission will look into how to adopt a more open policy for talent, while stressing you should not go too far. Zhang said the current scheme still has space for improvement, adding Macau always needs to handle the relationship between protection and openness in a proper manner. He noted authorities need to protect local employment and interests from the impact of opening the talent market. Meanwhile, as neighboring Hong Kong is also racing to attract businesses and talent, Zhang said Macau boasts relative advantages with respect to its living environment. He pointed out the living expenses in Macau are lower than those in Hong Kong. Zhang stressed under one country, two systems, the lifestyles in both cities are equally convenient and on par with international standards. He said this could entice professionals from around the world to seek career development and conduct research in Macau. Zhang added Macau is expected to leverage its advantage in the convention and exhibition industry and strengthen cooperation with countries along the Belt and Road Initiative in the future. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
The largest cruise ship in Asia, the Spectrum of the Seas, has docked in Hong Kong's Kai Tak cruise terminal this morning. Almost 5,000 passengers were on board. The ship arrived in Hong Kong at around 8 a.m. after departing from Shanghai. There was a line of taxis waiting to pick up passengers getting off the ship. The cruise terminal gave out gas coupons of up to $100 to taxi drivers that picked up passengers who could also choose to leave by bus. There were 2 additional express bus routes that transported tourists to the nearby Kai Tak MTR station and the West Kowloon high-speed rail station. This was in addition to the 4 regular bus routes and 1 minibus route. A number 3 alarm fire has broken out at an Aberdeen shipyard. The fire started around 4 p.m. today. The affected area was at 20 Shum Wan Road in Aberdeen. Firefighters quickly arrived at the scene. No casualties have been reported so far. 4 women and 5 men evacuated from the scene. The number 3 alarm fire signal was announced at 4:45 p.m. today by the Fire Services Department. They urged nearby residents who might be affected by the smoke to close windows and remain calm. The Hong Kong Jockey Club is hosting 2 international horse races this week, attracting over 600 overseas tourists. Some are expected to spend around $100,000 each in the city, with some also seeking business opportunities. Sakura Ip has more.
This is exactly why they came to Hong Kong.
Let's go, Zaki Boy! First time to Hong Kong, but it won't be my last.
With international jockeys and horses competing on the racetrack, 2 international races taking place this week are drawing more than 600 overseas tourists. They include these Australian fans who are here to support their Australian horses. This group of 80 Australian tourists will spend 7 days in Hong Kong, staying at a 5-star hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui. Aside from flights and hotel costs, each tourist is expected to spend over 100,000 Hong Kong dollars in the city. One of them spent 500,000 Hong Kong dollars on jewelry in a single day. This mother and daughter duo have had a good time.
We spend probably 50,000 Hong Kong dollar. We've got Christmas shopping and things to buy, and clothes, exactly. Lovely clothes. And I know, and a friend got a really cool camera that we couldn't get back home.
Some visitors are here to explore business opportunities, such as bringing more Australian horses to Hong Kong's races.
We've got about 20 owners coming up this week of recommendation our horse. We're trying to train them to optimise and get them ready to go to Hong Kong.
This travel agency has been organising horse racing trips to Hong Kong for the past 14 years, growing from just 7 guests in the first group to 80 this year. They plan to organise 2 or 3 trips a year in the future, with the next one scheduled for April.
The Hong Kong racing product is the best, most competitively priced in the world. It's one flight. Melbourne to Hong Kong, Sydney to Hong Kong. It's very easy for Australians to travel. That we've seen develop over the last few visits, that our guests who come to enjoy not just the racing, but also exploring commercial opportunities while they're here.
The organiser of the visit plans to include tourist spots in the Greater Bay Area. For the international horse races in Sha Tin Racecourse this coming Sunday, there are around 30 horses, accounting for more than half of the participating horses are from overseas. Sakura, TV News.
And a reminder that Pearl Main News will be broadcast at 8:30 tomorrow evening because of special program arrangements. Join us then. Have a good weekend.